What was once considered a small but thriving town, Tumbleweed, New Austin, began to decline over time, and by 1911 it was considered nothing more than habitat for thieves, marauders and bandits. Albeit only rumours, whispers throughout the world of Red Dead Redemption speculate that Tumbleweed is actually haunted, a ghost town. Only 4 years prior, in 1907, it homed a gun store, general store, saloon, hotel and butcher shop, all under the watchful eye of Sheriff Samuel Freeman. So what exactly happened to this settlement, and is it in fact inhabited by the supernatural? Well, today we're going to be looking into just that. Welcome to the video. You're listening to Phil of Filbee Gaming. If you enjoy the following, you all know what to do, and if you're new to the channel or haven't subscribed already, after watching, please consider doing so. With that being said, let's get into what we came here to see. The Haunting of Tumbleweed. Although once thriving, many speculate the fall of Tumbleweed to be the lack of railroad transportation that fails to run past the town.
What is this place we're headed?
Tumbleweed? A lonely, god-forsaken place. Some people say it's haunted. It was quite a town back in its day. Then they built the railroad to Armadillo and went clean past Tumbleweed. That was that. Pretty soon everybody had up and left. Now it's just thieves, smugglers, and bandits. Scum like Deke here. Oh, popular spot for lynchings, too.
Let's try to avoid that if we can, Marshal.
This was in 1911, but let's not get too far ahead of ourselves too early. During our initial visit in 1907, 4 years prior, upon John Marston's introduction to the town, he's met with a scene of heavy justice by the hands of one Sheriff Samuel Freeman.
Only lock me up if you want this town to burn, Sheriff.
We do not respond amicably to threats. What's the charge?
He was robbing a stage.
Wish whiskey grew.
Then the sentence is death.
Hey,
Make your
no!
peace,
The boy was
partner.
gonna put me in a cell!
This is wartime, and like you said, we can't take the risk.
Sheriff?
Although some may speculate that this form of powerful justice is necessary, some, potentially with more an outside perspective, believe it to be harsh, cruel and exaggerative. Sheriff Freeman is feared by his own townsfolk, and although he may be keeping the peace within his town, dealing with reprobates and undesirables firmly, it's thought that he rules with a little too much of an iron fist, often giving what he considers to be inspirational speeches out to the townsfolk.
All of you,
Morning there, partner.
this is Tumbleweed. We are the end of the civilized world. Anarchy exists just outside this town, but here, life is good. And life is good because we follow the rules. Disobedience will be fatal. None of you forget that. Welcome to Tumbleweed, son. Treat us with respect and we'll love you like family. Misbehave, and we'll slaughter you like a hog. That clear, boy? I said, is that clear, boy?
Freeman is described as domineering, overbearing and draconian. So with the lack of a railroad leading to less and less visitation from tourists and travellers, plus many of the townsfolk fearing the man who's appointed to keep them safe, is this the combination that caused the fall of Tumbleweed? Did the locals simply up and leave to seek a better life? Potentially, and due to its isolation from the rest of the world, probable. But as we encountered the town some years later in 1911, as it's long since been abandoned by said locals, where did the rumours of paranormal activity stem from? Are they stories told to young children to frighten them into staying clear of the town? Let's explore this, and later how the ghost stories may in fact tie in with the sheriff himself. There's a newspaper article produced in issue 53 of the Blackwater Ledger that gives us insight to the original rumours of the hauntings. It reads as follows. Following recent reports of ghost sightings in the abandoned town of Tumbleweed, visitors are continuing to tell of unnatural happenings and strange feelings. Some visitors claim to have seen spirits of the dead, ghouls and fairies. Our reporter on the scene found no evidence, but we urge readers to send us reports of any unnatural happenings in the area. So we know that there's apparent evidence of paranormal activity, albeit seemingly only seen by a chosen few. This logically brings us to the theory that the stories whispered throughout the world are nothing more than fables. Fabricated stories, but like most tales, however far-fetched and ridiculous they seem at first glance, there's always a strand of truth behind them. In order to delve deep into one particular theory, we need to head east to the town of Armadillo in the Cholla Springs region, more specifically Coots Chapel. Inside the church, etched into the face of the pulpit, reads as follows: "The devil has got into that beast." This could mean a number of things, or nothing at all, nothing more than vandals who play pranks, but there's a theory out there that suggests otherwise. In 1907, the town of Armadillo was ravaged by an outbreak of cholera, killing off many of its residents. Before that, the town suffered a plague of scarlet fever, causing a similar outcome. Many believe Armadillo has a curse placed upon it. I've covered this in a previous video explaining the possible cause of the curse, so allow me to take a segment from this, where as I met with a traveller, he gave his insight.
So, not sure you passed through Armadillo at all. Place like hell on earth these days. Used to be quite a nice little town, too. Now it's just dust storms and disease and death. They taking to burning bodies because they can't bury them fast enough. I mean, when you see it, it really feels like something biblical. And I ain't a religious man. Really, it's a sight to behold. I certainly ain't never read the Bible on account of me not reading and all, but for a place to turn like that, so bad and so fast, you can't help but thinking, this can't be of natural causes. Folk there are calling it a curse. And I ain't a superstitious man, but it's hard not to see it any other way. They're saying this figure appears sometimes there in the distance, black suit and big top hat, then disappears, shadowy. Like he ain't of this mortal realm.
Yep.
The Reaper and his Sunday best. Maybe they're being punished for sins or something, I don't know. I got enough sins on my tally to figure I'm gonna stay well away from there. And I ain't a betting man, but I'd put my money on this. Way things are, won't be long before Tumbleweed is the only town left in these parts, and there won't be nothing in Armadillo but ghosts.
The camper is of course referring to the strange man, a figure seemingly not of this world. In a nutshell, the story is told as follows. Herbert Moon, the Armadillo general store owner, made a deal with the devil himself for his own selfish profits. This is believed to be the reason why his store stands untouched by the plague whilst the remainder of the town around him is surrounded in despair. It is said that the strange man placed a curse on Armadillo in exchange for the store owner's soul, causing a twist that Herbert Moon didn't originally anticipate. If you wish to see my full take on this particular subject, you'll find a video available as the end screen to this one. But how exactly does this tie in with Tumbleweed? Well, the theory goes is that Sheriff Freeman, after watching his town begin to crumble as commerce went quiet, struck a similar deal. He sold his soul to the devil too. After Tumbleweed began to fall, news soon spread fast of its demise, even making the local newspapers, such as this article in issue 66 of the Blackwater Ledger, which reads, "This once bustling town of Tumbleweed in Gaptooth Ridge, New Austin, is growing quiet. The shops sit mostly empty. The blacksmith is idle. The population is dwindling as wagon after wagon of families leave. Since the railroad bypassed Tumbleweed in favour of Armadillo, trade and commerce has moved away. The last holdouts fear that there is not much future for their dear town of Tumbleweed, and it will soon become another casualty of the technological advances that have blighted so much of our westward expansion, with controversial Sheriff Samuel Freeman presiding over a dusty, soon-to-be-forgotten relic in the desert." Sheriff Freeman took great pride in the town of Tumbleweed, but as soon as the townsfolk abandoned their homes in search of a more substantial way of life, his mentality began to decline. As mentioned earlier in the video, Freeman's controversial ways, albeit he believed his intentions were pure, left much to be desired with the residents of the town. His reputation as something of a tyrant spread it throughout the West. Those who left may have seen it as not just leaving a dying town, but escaping from a once good sheriff turned mad, and those who stayed lived in fear. So to finalise, let's go through a potential theory as to what happened to Tumbleweed and the rumours of paranormal sightings. Sheriff Freeman's dealings with the strange man. As the inhabitants of Tumbleweed began to disperse, Freeman desperately wanted life back in his town. He needed to feel powerful once more, and the only way that was going to happen was to be able to police residents, but in order to obtain this, he would need just that, residents. Upon making a deal with the devil, he got exactly that, the surviving populace of Armadillo. Similar to Herbert Moon's dealing, the devil had a trick or two up their sleeve and intentionally sent the sick and dying of Armadillo to take residence in Tumbleweed. It is believed by some that due to Sheriff Freeman's history of cruelty and sociopathic traits, it's not too far-fetched to think that Freeman killed off the newer residents, trying to protect what little town he had left. Even as the healthier original townsfolk of Tumbleweed, those who had stayed, tried to flee during the killings, they too were slain. Knowing that Freeman was power-mad and possessed evil traits inside of himself, the strange man, or devil, saw this as a perfect opportunity to get exactly what evil desired, a massacre. This was the curse he placed on not only the town of Tumbleweed, but Sheriff Samuel Freeman himself. Residents are believed to have attempted to flee to the overlooking large mansion on the outskirts of town, but tragically couldn't evade the now manic sheriff, ultimately succumbing to his evil intentions. Following this, it's believed that Freeman buried the dead in and around the town before either fleeing or taking his own life, covering the real story behind the fall of Tumbleweed. This would support the fact that Freeman is nowhere to be seen in 1911. And as far as the apparent sightings of paranormal entities, many believe that they are the poor souls of the dead slain by Sheriff Samuel Freeman, the man sent to protect them. What do you think caused the fall of Tumbleweed? Was it cursed by the strange man similar to his works in Armadillo, or was it something more simple such as the railroad bypassing the town, or bandits such as the Del Lobos rolling through and wiping out the remaining occupants? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. If you enjoyed what you saw today, you all know what to do, and if you're new to the channel and haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.